Welcome to the Sleepy G Show. I'm the host with the most. My name is Gomez, and tonight I have another special guest. And I had to say, I actually had the privilege to coaching him in high school football. He is a true gentleman. Great honor to have him on the show. Martin Dahl. Martin, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Hey, thanks for having me on. This is really cool.
No, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on to the show tonight because I gotta admit, I've known you, Martin, now say a little over 20 years now. I'm going to say probably.
Wow.
Yeah, I know when you think about
Yeah,
it. When you
yeah.
say that now, it's been 20 years since I've coached you almost, I feel like. I remember when you were a freshman, I seen you grow up to be a good football player, a good person, and well, all around great guy. And one thing
Thank
I
you.
saw as we got older, and I know we didn't talk always on the phone or anything, but I always followed you on Instagram, and I noticed one thing you got into was art. And I remember you loved your music too, in which we talked about before recording. But I really want to know how you started with the art with yourself growing up with this.
Uh, so it's always sort of a talent that I had, especially drawing. And my parents identified it like at a young age and fostered that.
Hmm.
Um, so basically, I was always interested in the arts and specifically drawing. And then in high school, along with playing football, I'm sure you remember Miss Johns.
Oh yeah, of course I
Uh,
do.
yeah, of course. So Miss John, um, I took art all 4 years that I went to St. Mary's.
Okay.
And Miss Johns also identified my talent in the arts, and she really fostered it and helped me get involved in different high school programs, and specifically a wonderful summer program at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn between my junior and senior year of high school. And it
Oh.
was at that moment that I realized that that was kind of the trajectory or career path that I was interested in. So then after high school, I went on a pretty substantial scholarship uh, for art to a place called Marywood University, which is um, out in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Kind of, most people know the University of Scranton. So
Yeah.
there's another school called Marywood on the other end of town, um, and that's where I actually went in as a sculpture major, but didn't really like the department and found out that I had a real love for painting. So that's when I started painting. Got my bachelor's degree. Um, Actually left making art for about 5 years, which I had mentioned to you before.
Yes.
And in that time, ended up working for the primarily for the art and music departments at a special ed school called the Deron School back in Montclair, New Jersey. Um, Always in the back of my mind, knowing that I was going to go back and get my master's.
Mhm.
After 5 years, I went back to a place called the New York Studio School down on West 8th Street in Manhattan, and that's where I got my master's in fine arts. Um, and of course, being in Manhattan, you make a ton of connections. You really get, um, I mean, you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
There's no art community like the
Other
New
city.
York art community. So then, yeah, once I graduated, had my master's, I just went full steam ahead with my own studio career and making work, and then being involved in just the general arts in New York City. I still work. Um, I work as a registrar at a gallery in downtown Manhattan a few days a week, which is wonderful because it keeps me involved with some real top tier artists. But yeah, then I have my own practice that's my other kind of 9 to 5 job. I mean, I'm always in the studio, always making work, and I love what I do. So it's great to have a career. It's not just a career for generating income. It's a career and a lifestyle, and it's great to wake up and do what I love every day.
And that's awesome because like when you see some of your pieces, I mean, they are some outstanding works, and I could tell it takes time.
Thank
Any
you.
good artist like yourself, I could say that it does take time. It doesn't happen in 5, 10 minutes.
No, I mean, some of that work has, yeah, I mean, so because I sort of work at, I sort of work abstractly. I mean, some of these pieces, I'm not necessarily working on them from start to finish,
Mhm.
but I'm working on several at a time, and they can be worked on for months or even years in some cases
Right.
before they're complete. Um, so
Like I know, like you said, some of them can last months or even a year or two. What was one of your longest pieces you think you did? Like how like did it take a year or two, or did it take like what do you think it was your longest one?
well, there are some real large pieces that I actually, um, I have a smaller studio in Long Island City, but I have a kind of a large space actually out in East Orange, New Jersey, where I can make kind of larger than life size work.
Okay.
So we're talking, you know, I think the largest was probably like a 10-foot tall painting. So
Holy
so
shit.
big.
Wow. And yes, you
And
can curse on the show. Not to worry.
yeah,
So
okay. All
just
right.
like that's why I said I
Well,
just slipped myself. I just said, oh shit, that's a big piece. But yes, I forgot to tell you, you can curse on this show.
and in those pieces, like, um, they're not even strictly paintings anymore. These are kind of installation pieces. So um, I'll be rigging like sculpture to the canvas and hanging. I work with kind of like light bulbs and different objects. But some of those pieces have been through so many changes and have grown so much, and you kind of think they're done, and then maybe a month later you're looking and you go, no, it needs more. So the longest, I 3 years. I
Wow.
don't. Yeah, in some cases definitely 3 years. Some of them are, I don't even know if they're done yet. So
It's always
it's a
ongoing.
it's a fluid, yeah, it's a fluid thing. It like it just moves. Like, I don't, it's
I
hard to
understand.
say like start finish. It's more like just kind of going through it the whole time.
Right. And like you said, like for me, I can't draw. I'm not an artist, but I love artwork.
Mhm.
And like I said, I've been following you for quite some time and seeing some of your materials have been unbelievable. Like I've followed you for a very long time. I mean, I've been following you since probably when you started this venture. And Martin, I could say, as I'm still scrolling and I'm going and I keep going and I keep going and I'm realizing how much awesome artwork you have is just unbelievable. You know what I mean? And to see this talent come out of you is amazing. And I don't know how many people say that to you, but should be said a lot more than, but by not just by me, but other people who really love your work. Like you said, being in New York City in the heart of it, making connections, meeting people. I've know you've done some art galleries too. Like you opened up, putting up your stuff up and
Yeah.
like I guess like not like a pop up, but like a showing of your art.
No, I've worked with, yeah, I mean, I've worked with, um, I mean, certainly lots of group shows kind of all around the states, but yeah, no, I've worked with galleries in the city and or Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
um, solo exhibitions, things like that. I mean, and that's always a wonderful experience because uh the actual practice is such a solitary thing, right? Like
Right.
I sit in a studio for, months, months, years, you're alone, you're kind of working through things. And then when you have the opportunity to kind of launch a big exhibition or something and like put everything into a room, a clean like gallery space, and engage with the public. I mean, that's such a special moment.
I can only imagine how when you first did your first gallery, how nervous were you?
Um,
Or were you calm?
I think you're nervous when you think about it, so you just don't think about it too
Right.
much. And I mean, putting something like that together requires so much time and energy that you kind of don't have time to like think, like you don't really have time to pause and be like, oh man, like I'm getting nervous. It's more like you gotta like do like up until it's over. And then like it's kind of funny, it's when it's over, it's kind of the most nervous time because um you're just like thinking back over everything and like
Right.
reflecting. But yeah, when you're in it, I mean, it's a fast-paced thing. And then it's crazy too, because like you put all this work up and out there, and it's like 3 weeks to a month. That's the typical time an exhibition lasts.
Hmm.
So you just spent 3-5 years working alone in a studio for a month to share yourself, like what you've been doing for like a month, and then another 3-5 years back in the studio.
It's kind of funny. It's like I wouldn't consider what you do as like my podcasting, but like sitting like for me, my studio is my basement where
Yeah.
it's aka the man cave slash the kids cave. So, but when I'm here alone, like I'm thinking like, what do I write for my next blog?
Mhm.
Like for me, I've written I what I feel was like four awesome pieces in my blog that I've taken the time out to really think it through. Like one of them is who's your hero? And for me, everybody knows me very well, was my dad was one of my biggest heroes. And my mom too, but I was so close with my dad with the football and with sports and stuff like that. And so that was one of my good pieces that actually people have reached out to me, said, wow, you are full of talent. And I, for from hearing that from somebody who I don't know is so cool. I wrote something about bullying, you know, me having someone, I don't know if my daughter got bullied a little bit, and I didn't want to stand for it, so I decided to write about it.
Mhm.
Me, I was a bullier, and I was bullied, so I had not just I had both experiences, so I wrote about that too.
Yeah.
And I think people need to know, hey, I when I bullied somebody, I thought about it long and hard. That's not
Mhm.
right either. But
Mhm.
when I got bullied, I also thought about it and going, well, why didn't I react like I was supposed to? Because I'm better than that.
Mhm.
And then I wrote about the football program, how I played football, another awesome piece. And then I did the autism piece. You know, for me, those are like my masterpieces to my blogging and podcasting world. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
how you have your artwork, you have a ton. And when I mean a ton, I mean, I see some of it, I think they're all masterpieces, man. You know,
I mean, that's real flattering. Thank you. It's interesting, like talking about the blogging and the reaching out to people. I mean, that's another huge part of at least how I choose to be an artist or pursue my career. A huge part of it is, yeah, like you're alone for all this time, like creating these things, similar to like when you're, alone writing your pieces. But the whole goal is that eventually you're putting it out there and you
mhm.
want the engagement with other people. You want to inspire, you want to make people pause and like think about things. You
Yeah,
want to, I mean, that's the whole goal. You're doing it, you're doing it through uh writing and podcasting, and I'm doing it through two-dimensional artwork. But yeah, it's all about communication, right? And like,
Yeah.
and then like that makes me excited, and real hopeful too, because I do find that is something that our society is kind of lacking at the moment,
Mhm.
is real communication. Everybody's got opinions, but and that's great, but people oftentimes aren't communicating with others, to resolve conflicts or
Yep.
differences, and I think things like art, podcasting, writing, all those things serve as that kind of bridge to like bring people together rather than, pulling people apart like that. And I don't know, that's where I feel like the higher calling of the mission to be an artist in any form is bringing people closer together. And then like that, that just brings fun and joy and like, without sounding too like cheesy about it or whatever,
No,
like
please.
you're ultimately making the world a better place, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we could all just give a little bit,
Yeah.
the
You know
world
what?
just gets better.
And that's something like for me, this is why I love what I do. You know what I mean? I don't get me wrong. I loved when I did my podcasting with Playlist Wars. I still love it and I can't wait to go back to it. But this is where I differentiate a little bit with my own stuff. Like this is me in a nutshell. I love talking and hearing things like that because people don't realize as an artist, as a podcaster or a blogger or as a writer, anything, it's hard.
Mhm,
Sometimes you come up with these little blocks. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Artist, as a painter, as an artist, you have had blocks probably where you sit there for what, 2, 3, 4 weeks, even a
Oh, it's
month.
frustrating, but you kind of learn to. I mean, it's that kind of love-hate relationship where even when it's driving you crazy, you kind of love every minute of it
Mm.
still,
See,
right?
like for me, like now I'm trying to think of like what's the next big blog for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So what I do is I take a little notebook and I'm writing. All right, I did this. I did this. Like what's going to be that next attention grabber? You know what I mean? Like how am I going to
Yeah.
pull in? And that's something I respect as you as an artist. You know what I mean? How you do it because, like you said, you could sit there. It can be frustrating. You could sit there for a month and you're looking
Mhm.
at a blank canvas and you're trying to figure out what's the starting point. You know what I mean?
Well, and yeah, and the truth is there's more time spent thinking about it and living with it and kind of figuring it out than there is physically making it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 75, 80% of the time is just sitting there staring at the blank canvas,
Right.
thinking about your next move.
It,
Um, I think that's important too, though. Like the world is so fast these days. Like we move at such like a hyper speed through things. We're not always thinking about what we're doing. We're just kind of doing.
yeah.
Um, and I think things, especially like, I'm my work is like pretty contemporary and kind of crazy sometimes, but at the same time, it's very traditional in the sense that like I'm painting, I'm drawing, I'm sculpting. I'm not
You're not
and
lollygagging.
those things, yeah, and those things take time. They require people. I mean, to look at something requires a person to slow down too. And I think that's like a very valuable thing in this,
Yes.
in the contemporary space that we occupy. Sometimes standing still is the best thing like you can do.
Mm-hmm. And then you're right because it's sometimes standing still. It could be the best thing because I guess there's the perfect movie line, and I'll say it's from Ferris Bueller's Days Off. If you don't just stand there, life moves pretty fast. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you just don't take that moment. And it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I know you're laughing at it, but it's true. it's
Yeah.
life does move pretty fast. And it's kind of funny. I never thought about it until I'm listening to you talk about it. I'm like, wow, that's some great serious stuff that you're talking about, because I never thought about it that way. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I'm not an artist. I love coloring though. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I have the adult coloring books,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
sit there. I'm not like you. You're very talented. If you put something and you say, hey, can you color it for me? I might be able to do something. But I love working with the colors because I'm not an artist by trade, but working
Right.
on colors and drawing by coloring the stuff in, I feel like my that's my sense of relief.
Yeah. Well, I think there is a weird thing that happens with, especially like what I do, because it's pretty abstract. So it's not, you don't necessarily, like, the viewer doesn't necessarily look at it and like they can't necessarily relate to it directly in like the way that you could if it was a picture of like a person or like a, something recognizable. But I think like the talent part, I think sometimes intimidates people, but I really believe that, not that everybody's, like possesses the kind of artistic talent to like make, incredible artwork, but that everybody possesses um the ability to appreciate or to consume artwork, or like you're saying, like you work with colors, right?
Mhm.
Um it's just kind of who we are. Like, it's
Yeah,
outside of like, well, you were my football coach. Like, sports are similar. Like, that kind of like physical carnal activity of like playing sports, and then this sort of uh kind of realm of like metaphor and thought that goes into the visual arts. Those are like the two base elements of like being a human being.
right. No, and I
So I
agree with you.
really actually think we all possess it,
Yeah,
you know, it,
it's just everyone
and
has a different way of doing it.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
for me is definitely doing what I do here. Like, I love the fact that I could do it on YouTube. You know what I mean? This is why I do this. I put it on all the podcast stations too. The people who love to listen it that way. And it's kind of funny, as I now as my Instagram feeds are getting little, I'm getting followed more people are starting to follow me because of what I'm doing. Either
Yeah.
it's like last night, I went out to dinner. I went to Steve's Sizzling Steaks last night for dinner.
Okay.
So, I posted up showing what I had for dinner, because people want to know what I'm doing now. It's kind of funny that,
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna lie, the last few days I had a stomach virus. It kind of went throughout the whole family. Started with my son with a little bit of strep and a stomach flu, and went to my daughter, went to my wife, and then it went to me. And I was missing for a couple days. I didn't post anything because I'm laying on the couch or on the bed, like going, what can I do to kind of tell my. So yesterday I posted, hey guys, today, happy Sunday. I hope everyone's good.
Yep.
I've been MIA because I've been sick. Check out my newest stuff I'm posting, video games, movies, check the link in the bio because I'm back. I want people to know
Yeah.
that, you know what I mean? So, hey, I got sick. Things happen, but the show can't stop because it just can't, you
Right.
know.
I mean, I get that.
Well, you understand that.
Yeah.
When I coached you guys, the one thing I always did preach, I always said, guys, as much as we all love football, football was never first. I always said family was first. Got
Mhm.
to take care of the family. Got to take care of, yourself, then school. And there was always church. But I said football was always last. And when I look at some of you guys, like I look at you, I look at some of the other guys in that class, and I see how far you guys went into college careers, scholarships. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And to hear half of you guys do so well without football,
Yeah.
to me, I felt like I did something correct with you guys, and
100%. I mean, and that was the great part about like the St. Mary's program too, right? Is that, I mean, that was always like the ethic behind, you know, you're like citizens first and your football players second.
Mhm.
And if you're a good football player or just a good athlete in general, it's really more about understanding that the skills that you develop on the field are the skills that are going to help you develop as a better person in life. You know, I take those skills, you know, I take that work ethic from those drills we used to run over and over and over again. And that's, I mean, that's what I use to, I mean, you know, this firsthand, like creating your own career from scratch, which
Mhm.
is what you do is like as an artist, right? Yeah. Like, yeah, I went and I got my master's. Then I was just a broke artist with a master's degree. Like
Right,
it
right.
didn't, there's no, it's not like I could now, like with my master's as an artist, I couldn't walk into a law firm and be like, all right, like, you know, I'm going to be employed here. I had to create it all from scratch. So like thinking back to those drills we would run and all, you know, all that ethic on the field, um, that's what I use in my life that kind of allowed me to build the career that I've built from nothing,
And
you
that's
know.
where, for me to see, like I said, for me as one of your old football coaches, to see you develop to see the person that you are today, it makes me happy as all hell, dude. Because to see Martin today, you know what I mean. As I'm turning 44 at the end of the year, you know what I mean. For me,
Amazing.
it's amazing because I remember when you were a freshman.
So wait, how you were in your 20s then? Is that right?
Yes,
When you were
I
coaching
was.
me?
So I started coaching St. Mary's when I was at 19. So
You
I
haven't changed. You haven't changed a bit, man.
oh no, no, no.
You look great.
I appreciate it. I've gotten the little white hairs here. You know what I mean. I've
But we
gotten
all, I mean, we all have.
no. I stayed true to who I was. You know, I mean, got a little chubbier in the midsection, but who hasn't? But no, I mean, I stayed who I was. One thing I do miss, I miss coaching. I'm
Mhm,
not gonna lie. I loved anything that I did to that I didn't do right. I wanted to make sure if I coached, my message to the kids like you were don't do what I did. It
mhm.
starts as a freshman. And I think you guys, I think it was my first year or my second year. I think it was you were my second year class. So I was in my 20s. Look, because the first year I think was Eddie Dolan was the quarterback.
Yeah, that was my class.
That was your class. So that was my second
That
year.
was my class.
So that was
Yeah,
your freshman year was my second year because I took over as the head coach. Because
yeah,
I had Coin.
With Murley
Yes.
and yeah, the whole yeah.
Yeah, so it was with Coin and Coach Cohen and Coach Marone were with me that year. That was the first time I was
Mhm.
running that whole program, actually. So
Yeah.
that was very scary for me too to begin with. When became, I guess, the freshman head coach that year, I think that was scary. you
I
know,
remember that freshman summer walking down to Tamblin and like into the weight room.
yeah. But you know what? You went in, and I will say, when you first came out as a freshman, I looked at you. I'm like, you might not have all the talents, but you will be playing the sport. And you worked so hard every day. You gave it 110%.
If you're going to do something, you got to do it
And,
110%.
and that's something that I can always say that when I look back at those times, how hard you worked. You know, you did whatever it took. You would play the scout running back. You would be the scout wide receiver. When you waited your turn, and then when actually that was when Jeffrey Jones was there too.
He was the year after me.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but yes, yeah,
even when we went to
same.
JV, you know what I mean? When
Yeah,
you went to JV, you waited for your turn, but you played. You got the
yeah.
playing time. Even freshman year, you got your playing time. Everyone got to play. I made sure of it because you know what? Not everyone's a superstar. But you know what? Whoever gave me that 110 got to be on that field. Hey, you messed up? Hey, pick yourself up. Do it again.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And one thing I always said when, when I became coach at St. Mary's, My thing was I didn't want to mess up the flaws that I had.
Mhm.
Every flaw that I messed up, I fucked up. I want to make sure that you guys did not mess up. That's why I said, hey, family, take care of your moms, take care of your dads, take care of your brothers or sisters. Schoolwork, make sure you get it done. Without an education, you ain't going nowhere.
It's the
You know,
truth.
and
Yeah.
it is the truth. You know what I mean? My education was messed up. I did things differently when I was there. I wish I went back,
Mhm.
fix that. You know what I mean? And who knows where I would be then. But you know what? I chose my career. I love who I am. I do what I do. I love what I'm doing now. You know, there were certain people say I would never make it anywhere. And look at me now. I got my own show. And people love, and I'm
Yeah.
working with some great people. Like you said, you have connections. I'm making connections myself.
Isn't
And
that crazy to think of, like, growing up and developing, and there's always those voices out there that are like, no, you're never going to make it. You're never going to do it. I mean, I look, the art world. I mean, New York City art world. That's like top of the game.
yeah,
So you get it all the time. Like, what are you doing? You're never going to go anywhere. Dude. If we listen to those voices, it, I mean, you just got to like tune it out. If you know what you're doing and you want it
yeah,
bad enough, you
you're gonna,
just do it.
and that's something now as I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Like I'm learning on my own. I made my own
Yeah.
website. Is it the greatest website? No, but I could say it's mine. You know what I mean? Could I develop
I
it
mean,
a little bit?
the podcast is fantastic. I mean, and you're so good at doing this.
And that's what a lot of people tell me. Like, how did I not choose a career into TV and radio? I said I wanted to, but I wasn't good enough to get into schools for it. I
Mhm.
had people before the shows come on. I was like, you have such a distinctive radio voice. Why aren't you in radio? I said I
You
never
do.
had, and I appreciate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have a personality that I can go on the camera like this and just do what I do. You know,
Well, it's funny when you reached out to me to do this. I mean, and how many years had it been? But you reached out to me to do this, and it clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like, and then I was thinking about you as like a coach. I was like, I bet it's great. He'd be like great at podcasting.
yeah.
Like,
And I mean,
yeah,
if you've seen like on some of my YouTube channels, on my YouTube channel, and then if you listen on, Spotify or Good Pods or,
yep,
Apple Podcast, Amazon, I'm all over the place.
yeah,
But for me to do this, it's what I love to do. I'm
yeah.
not looking for money. This is I don't get paid for this. This is my hobby. This is what I love to do.
Hmm.
Hey, listen, do I hope one day someone goes, "Hey, we want him." You know what I mean? I hope someone says that. I hope someone, picks up and says, "Wow, listen to him. He's so good." If we just
The
tone him down with the cursing, that would be better
yeah,
because, if you get to go national TV, I get it. The sleeveless shirt might have to go to
but they can bleep that stuff
oh
out.
yeah, they can. I don't. But like that's my whole gimmick is the sleeveless shirt.
Yeah, there
You
you
know,
go.
but if I go national, I guess it'll be a shirt and tie but sleeveless. You know what I mean? Just for the
That's great.
you
That's
know,
on brand. Yeah.
yeah, that's my own brand. I mean, I actually I made a jersey. I'm waiting for it to come in. It's a sleeveless baseball jersey with my
Awesome.
logo on it. And there you go. Now I have another shirt as to tack on except for these tacky gray shirts I wear I'm waiting for someone to say, dude, do you not wash your shirts? I'm waiting for someone to say that. Just to see if someone ever notices it. But I love grays. I love these colors. So I figure if I buy a big enough jersey, I'll wear it. It has my name on it, my number, which is still my football jersey number 79, the year I was born.
There you
You know,
go.
and that's gonna be my niche. That's always been my niche. And the fact of I could sit here, I could talk about movies and just like as you as an artist, like I could talk about whatever I can. Like but for some reason, if I go in front of a live audience, I'm such a horrible speaker when it comes to a live audience. I don't know why. Like, I don't know if I could do what you do. Like, if you're doing an expo and you got it there and you're talking to, I'm just gonna throw out a celebrity. Just say a celebrity is there. Say Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm just gonna throw out a name. I'm not
Yeah.
saying who
Yeah,
knows.
yeah.
It could have happened. Say Gwyneth Paltrow is like, Mr. Dole, please explain to me this piece that I'm looking to maybe even purchase from you. Like, how do you explain something like that to a high-ranking celebrity? I'd be nervous as shit.
You spend a lot of time perfecting your your craft. You're like, you really have to be a wordsmith. I'm lucky though too, because and you were talking before about heroes and your father being one of your heroes.
Mhm.
You know, you probably knew of my dad as a former St. Mary's football player too, but
Yes,
he's also a musician.
I remember your dad
And
very
so
well.
I grew up, I grew up with him producing like some major concerts in the area. And then I've performed, I, like you said, I was in music and I performed with him and, uh, I've played with kind of bigger name people like Pete Seeger. We would work with Pete Seeger all the time.
But yeah,
Um, but so I have that in my background. So it's just kind of part of my DNA. And, it was another thing that was fostered by my dad. And, he's another person with such an incredible work ethic. Like
mhm,
I could always look up to him for that.
yeah. Same thing with my dad.
Yeah.
That's where my work
And,
ethic comes from to this day with my dad. Even
yeah.
though he's been gone for over 20 some odd years, the one thing that I will always thank God for is that work ethic that he did lay on me. You know what I mean? Keep
Mhm.
working, keep pushing, keep striving, keep doing what you think is right. And
Yeah.
every time on this show, I try to push to become a better at myself. All right, how do I top this next show? How do I do this better? You know what I mean? Like, now I have the background. You know what I mean? What do I do to improve it better? You know what I mean? Like, and that's something, I learn every day. You know, I go on YouTube, I look at other shows. I go on Instagram, I look at some other tips that I connections that I've made and listen to what they're offering, you know what I mean? I had a girl, her name was Karen. She's a social media consultant.
Very cool.
Very cool. She was very awesome. She paid a lot of compliments to me, like how assertive I was, how good I was. Like, she goes, I don't know why you're, she gave me a lot of compliments. I was not expecting that.
Hmm.
Christina Bear, another
Hmm.
great person. She gave me so many compliments. Cara DeFalco, Don Smith, a couple other neat people. Actually, my old partner Brian Colbert. All
Hmm.
these people. I have connections up in Canada. Jason Whistle, who I just did his show last night. It's not that bad. Podcast. We were talking about Roadhouse 2 last night.
Okay.
So
What
all the
what what are you thinking about Roadhouse 2?
Roadhouse 2 with Jake Busey was not it was not that bad. But now I'm waiting to see we're waiting to see the reboot of Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're all
I'm a little curious about that one.
I think we all are because Conor McGregor's in this.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of we said we're gonna when that movie comes out on Amazon, we said that we will jump back on the show and talk
I
about
mean, it's
that.
gonna be a tough one though, that because that the original Roadhouse is such an iconic movie.
You're gonna laugh when I tell you this, and I told him last night. Someone told me that the movie sucked. They didn't like it. I was like, "Where's the cooler?" Because I'm about to bounce him from here.
I
I
I can understand why somebody wouldn't like the movie, but how do you not like the movie?
The movie
Like,
was nonstop
it's
action.
kind of perfect for what it is.
Yes,
It's like it
exactly.
doesn't get better than that.
It does not. You're right, but it's one of the iconic movies. You're right. But now, are you selling your pieces too? As you're putting them up, or
Yeah, well, I do. I mean, any especially anytime that there's like if I work with a gallery and there's an opening, then all that works always for sale. Um I'll tell people, because there's always that question like, why is it so expensive? When you hang in a gallery, it's like selling cars out of a car dealership, right?
Yeah.
So the gallery takes a commission on what you're doing.
Mhm.
And then another thing people might not be aware of are supplies. Like
Oh,
paint
yeah.
costs a lot of money, and good paint, like the kind of paint I use, costs a lot of money. Um, but yeah, no, the work's always for sale, and
Cool.
always available. And if anybody were ever interested, like uh basically, uh I'm not I'm not represented by anybody right now, which is kind of great. So like anything would go right through me. So um, you know, transactions are just kind of if somebody's interested, they would either email me, DM me, or whatever, say that they're interested. Then I drop them the price, negotiate a little bit,
Right.
whatever.
Just so
Yeah.
where you're making your money, but you're also making sure you're getting something back. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
always a little wiggle room. You always
Yep.
listen.
Well, and there's an art market. There's like an art market etiquette. I mean, people would often people that don't know the etiquette might be like, well, if I go to your website, how come I can't just like, how come the price isn't listed and I can't just purchase directly off the site? Um, it just happens to be that like the etiquette is that you don't really talk about price until somebody's curious about buying, and then that's like
Right.
done in private kind of.
And
Yeah.
that's something I get because, like you said, there's an etiquette to it. You
Yeah.
you have to, and that's something I do understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, and I mean, I think most people understand, but I also, I could see why somebody who's not familiar with the art world would have a question like, well, how come I can't just click and buy?
No, and that's the world now. Then that's something that again, you know, I totally understand because why can't I just go click and buy? But you got to understand there's more to it than just clicking and buying. You know what I mean? You want to
Yeah.
talk to the artist a little bit like, hey, you're selling this piece, but explain to me a little bit more why it's at this price. Because there's a story to it. On top of it
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
and I'm not saying just say I'll say a price right now for shits and giggles. I'll just say, hey, this paint cost me $1,300.
Right.
Okay. So it's $1,300. Explain why. Here you go. This is the reasoning, the time I put into it, the paints that's been put into it, the specific colors that I used, everything. Hey, can you go 1,200? You know what? You look at
Yeah.
it and
Yeah.
you're like,
Exactly.
exactly. You know what? I sell it for 1,200. You got a deal.
Yeah.
There's some people that don't understand what the etiquette is, and you're right. And that's that fast moving pace of the world that we're living in. You know,
And then there's the inside stuff too. I mean, if I like stop by the art store and purchase supplies, um, if I get a couple of 12-ounce jars of paint and maybe a gallon of painting medium and rolled canvas or something,
mhm,
I just dropped $500
easily.
easily. And that's not much.
No,
you
no, it's
know,
not.
that's like that's like half a painting.
Yeah, that's
So I
that's
mean,
just
you're
like a
just
quarter of
supplies
it.
alone, you're talking about like thousands and thousands of dollars sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also prices are based on scale. So like a smaller thing is obviously going to cost less than a massive thing.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, it's like anything. The more materials, the more the
Oh,
price.
the
The more the
price
price
goes
goes up.
up. Like,
Yeah,
right now I'm looking at something you posted in February 1st, which I think the painting's so cool. And it's just the colors of you have up here. And it says tread softly 2023, approximately a 10 by 7 quarter inch canvas, Kern something I can't even say it, and acrylic on wood, which is really cool painting. And I
yeah,
see, and what's funny is the texture that you see in the paint.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? For me, what I see is I see a lot of cool things and it just happening in just this one painting as I'm just staring
Yes.
at it as I'm talking to you. You
Yeah.
know,
So like ballpark, something like that, that's somewhere around like the 1,200, that would be somewhere around like the $1,200 range,
and
you
that's a
know?
beautiful painting.
Thank you.
And I'd say, you know
And
what?
I mean, time, you got to think time too, right? Like
Yeah.
that's also countless hours of my life, my energy just poured into this thing. I mean, that's love and care and time and energy
Yeah.
all in this, like, and that matters. I think one of the reasons that my work is compelling is because, I mean, I'm committed to that work. So I'm so dedicated to making it that, it that's in there. Like, and I think people can sense and see that. You know what I mean?
And that's something I could definitely see because I, as knowing you for so many years, but also coaching you and the dedication that you always put into it, your heart and soul's in it. You know what I mean?
I hope so.
I think it does.
I
It
I,
shows.
I put it there.
I could see it, but again, that's me looking at it and saying, "Holy Christ! I see what he's trying to accomplish. I see the point that he's trying to put out there." Because you have to look at a painting and really look at it and study it a little bit. It doesn't say, "Oh," it doesn't hit you right away. It takes a few minutes.
Right.
You
Right.
sit there, you look at it, like another one you just posted 2 days ago, and I could sit there and I look at it and I'm seeing the purplish color with a little bit of the red, the greens, the yellows, a little bit of hint
Mhm.
of magenta, these little things, and then some little tears here and there. But I see something that compels to me that it's so unique and so wonderful. But
Thank
then
you.
again, that's me just sitting here and looking at it for a minute. Imagine what I could do sitting here for an hour and look into it more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of, I mean, that's the whole slowing down thing, right? And like,
Hmm.
it's amazing too, like even in like our domestic spaces, we so easily put stuff up on the walls to like fill up wall space. But I mean, putting putting like a painting up on the wall that like you you like look closely at,
Hmm.
that just makes living better, right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the work and the dedication, like you said, is the best thing you could do out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something I fully agree with you. And seeing what you're sharing to the world, not just in New York. You know what I mean? When you look at the followers and the following and the posts,
Mhm.
it's just not New York alone. It's the world.
No,
And
it is the world. That's the amazing, that's one of the most amazing things that technology has accomplished too. The
yes,
ability to reach across the globe now.
I mean, I got people listening to me in Sweden, which
Yeah,
was
that's
cool. I'm like,
that's
that's
awesome.
awesome. I got a connection to Sweden because I know somebody out there, but he shares it with people.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest thing. And for me to see, like I said, seeing your artwork and just seeing just a few things in the first, 8 to 10, 13 slots, there's amazing work, man. And I could literally sit there, Martin, and I could say, wow, and really take the time and think about it. Like, if you ever get a chance, guys, literally, you have to go look at his Instagram pictures because these paintings that you're doing, the canvases, the statues, the sculptures that you're making, they have a story to it. I don't
There's
know
an
what
absolute story. Yeah.
there's a
Yep.
story to it, and you have to conclude to what you think this story is about.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can say, yeah, you're getting closer. Yeah,
Well,
that's something.
you know, in terms of the story too, the best way I can explain what the story is like, let's say you're talking to like somebody who's lived an entire life, right?
Mhm.
You're talking to them and you ask them to like sum up their entire life in words, like in like a few sentences. Like you don't get the scope of the picture, right? Of
Right.
like that whole lifetime and everything that's happened in that lifetime. Um, but if you like, how do I explain this? The canvases are kind of like lives lived.
Mm,
There's there's there are millions of moments that make up that life,
right.
and they're all embedded in there. So to say that the story is, starts here and ends there isn't what they're about. It's
No.
about them containing lots of stories,
Oh, yeah.
having lived a life. It's about them
Yes.
having an entire life.
Yes. And it just like you said, there's not just one. There's several stories in a painting. There's a
Yeah.
reason why you started over here with this one color and ended it over there. That's a story itself. And then you're doing
Mhm.
something over here to over there. That's another story. And then you add another
Mhm.
element, then another element. They're all stories, but they all there's a reason why they're all coming together to make a beautiful
Yeah.
painting. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's the part of the story. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
can come out and say, damn, that is so freaking awesome. That's a true artist right there. You know what I mean? That's something you're passionate about, and that's something I love to hear.
Thank you. Yeah. No, that, I mean, yeah, it's that part of my life, what I do as an artist. I mean, that's everything to me.
Mm.
Uh yeah, it's everything. Family and, you know, being an artist.
And that's something that's awesome. And we're at point at that time now, Martin, where we're definitely gonna wrap it up tonight. I can't
All
thank
right.
for coming on. Just hearing your stories tonight is just such a true honor. And seeing you 20 years ago to come to now where we're at today, you know what I mean? I'm so freaking proud of you, man. I'm so happy
Thank
for
you.
you, and I love seeing the work that you're putting out there, man. I know your parents tell you, but as seeing you grow up a lot along the way, and seeing you do what you do is just so awesome, man.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, there's nothing better than somebody reaching out because they've been moved by what I'm doing. I
Hmm.
mean, that's a huge part of why I do what I do. So, you made my year. Like,
Well, this is the whole, and this is the reason we want to put you on the show, because we want people to hear this. You know what I mean? You're always behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
yeah,
We
yeah,
can't be at your art studio because that's your private,
yeah.
your private time.
Well, hey, anytime you're around the city, though, hit me
Mhm.
up. Like, I'd
I
love to do
definitely,
like a studio visit with you or something. You
yeah,
know,
I would love to come out to the city one day, and then, come
yeah,
out and then, hang out and see where
yeah.
you're
Oh,
what
hey,
you're doing.
open invitation anytime you're around.
I definitely will take you up on that, because I don't mind going into the city once in a while either. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always an honor going to the city. But Martin, we're at that point where, where can everyone find you? Let everybody know.
All right. So I have a website which kind of chronicles different exhibitions that I've had. So there are galleries on the website that chronicle those exhibitions, and that's Martin Dull, MartinDull art.com.
Hmm.
So that's my website. For like the up to date kind of day to day, what I'm up to, what I'm making, what I got my hands in at any given moment. That's the Instagram. And my handle on Instagram is at MGDULL. So MG Dull.
Awesome. So we'll definitely, when I post up, I'm going to be putting your website and your Instagram on it too, so people could click on it and see your stuff too. So not to worry on that.
Oh, one other spot I have to shout out. I have work available through an online platform called All Artworks,
Mhm.
ALLARTWORKS. They're a Michigan based, very kind of philanthropic group of artists that promote basically the arts from everywhere. I'm a
Cool.
part of that platform. So if anybody's interested in like purchasing my work direct, I have a couple of pieces through that can be purchased directly. And I do get a pretty big cut of whatever sells through that too. So somebody could check that out if they're interested in just like a kind of click and buy situation.
I definitely will post that. I will definitely put that on the show notes too. So not to
Awesome.
worry. So thank you, Martin, for coming out tonight. I really appreciate your time and love to talk about the passion that you have for the arts, man. It's so good to hear and such an honor to have you on the show today, man. I can't thank you
Likewise, it's
enough.
an honor to be here. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Well, as you can see, guys, dreams do come true, and hard work and dedication does pay off at the end of the year, the end of the time, at the end of the day. So just remember that, folks. And that's the way I end the show. Love, peace, and happiness, everybody. Good night.